afraid, uh, unsure, uh, doubtful, uh, fearful. Uh, these are a few things that silence makes me feel very often. And this morning there was this period where I was doing nothing, and this whole thing hit me. I get very restless and distressed in different ways at different times. And why does this happen to me? Why cannot I just be with what is in that moment? Uh, those are the thoughts that I want to begin with. And uh, I got my evergreen favorite gullible friend Hemant Gupta. Thank you, Hemant. As always, you are very kind with your time and attention and appearance on the show.
Thank you, Bunty. Uh, I I think I'm always looking inward and forward to our next exchange. So I'm thankful to you.
Yeah. So I just laid the ground for what I was feeling. Just now, as I was preparing, I realized uh, uh, today I just heard the news that Piyush Pandey, the great ad man, passed away. Uh, so there are people sharing their emotions about for and against as what kind of person he was. So before I dig into uh, my own questions about that, uh, a little prayer for him, and also one of the silences that I would want to discuss about. It is said that when people who are very well known or big stars in some manner, when they pass away, we feel this personal sense of loss. Uh, and that is because we all feel that we own a part of their journey as much as our own, even they may not know us personally at all. And I was just thinking about this a couple of minutes back. So my question to you is about the sense of loss and the silence that accompanies it. Uh, because that is a very big one, obviously. What are your initial thoughts about the big silence, the big void? Uh, you can encompass the thought of us feeling alone in this vast universe also as one of the ways to look at it. But anyway, that our tiny selves and the bigness of death, the universe, time, space, things that happen to us. What do you want to share?
I think it's a
Can you speak up a little?
Yeah. I think it's a very very deep invocation, Bunty. Um, I think if we were to look at it from the thing that, let's say there is silence, and then the opposite of silence is the non-silence. So non-silence could be noise, signal, uh, music, whatever. I think we already have some relationship with both the silence and the non-silence. It's just that we haven't, perhaps, some of us could have been on the journey of looking at that, both of them, and maybe started making peace with some of them, and then maybe making some shifts in both of them. And over a period of time, I think one then in the journey and the what one wants from this life can have their proportions of silence and proportions of non-silence. I remember a very dear friend, Saurabh Garg, had given me a book. The title of the book is Silence, by a mountaineer called Arvind Kage, if I'm getting the name right. And the whole of the book is covered with small chapters on various kinds of silence, various textures of silence. And it's a wonderful read. I would recommend if people want to read. So that's one big invocation. The second invocation is, I think somewhere inside, deep inside, there is at least a faint or a superficial realization uh, of the kleshas that we have, avidya, asmita, rag, dvesh, abhinivesh. So if we just unpeel a little bit of them, then abhinivesh is the ultimate death, the ultimate silence of human activity on the planet. Um, and maybe we don't discuss it, we don't reflect on it, we don't know how to process it, receive it, share with it. And that makes it even more uncomfortable. And when we start sharing all kinds of things, and we want to hang on to those kind of sharings, whether positive or negative, and take sides. Um, these are my initial thinking.
This by itself is a topic by uh, in its scope and expanse, but I'll stick to uh, the varied kinds of silence. We have spoken about this aspect of silence that you just mentioned a couple of times, briefly sometimes and in depth at times. Uh, so very basic. Why does silence scare us at all? What is what is it in its nature, or what is it in our nature that kind of finds a dissonance with it in some manner, even if it is just basic restlessness?
So if I hear you right, what you're saying is a lot of people feel a lot of restlessness, or they're not able to reconcile with silence of some kind. Uh, and the question is, why is it so?
Yeah.
So I don't know whether I'll be able to answer this, but my intuition is, as we're speaking, it's about 8 o'clock in the evening, and we don't see lights, as in the natural light outside. We see artificial lights. And I know of a lot of people, including myself. I used to have a very different relationship with darkness at night. A lot of fear around the dark envelope in which we are uh, reluctantly put into every night. And with that also comes that deep silence. Everybody's just, the whole activity actually then comes towards inactivity, and people are trying to get back to some sleep or rejuvenation or stuff. So if you really see, there is one kind of silence we experience when we go to sleep. Uh, but of course, if we are observant, then even then we are not silent. The mind is running riot. A lot of screensavers are running, unless we are in deep sleep, which is where there's absolute nothingness, the experience of absolute nothingness, pure being, pure witness consciousness, Turiya, if the Turiya state, as it is called in the ancient wisdom.
Yeah.
Um, I feel that somewhere internally we are wired for survival. We want to live uh, and live in a certain way, and we fear death. Uh, and there are various connotations that death has taken in the civilization we find ourselves in. Uh, somebody saying no to us is a death of something. Somebody rejecting us, rejecting our work, criticizing our work is a sort of death of something. Um, when somebody cuts us from their social circle, there's again some kind of death. So I think we experience the closure, the abrupt closure or the undesired closures of things in a certain way, and we want to live through those different things that I cited. We wanted to live them, but then we are not able to survive them. We sort of die when we hear that no, that rejection, that disappointment, that failure. And we do not know how to make peace with that, or we don't know how to process that. So I think as a culture, we have been conditioned for long to do our own individual processing of all of these, the the no, the disappointment, the failures, this rejections, um, and we don't know how to do well. So obviously, our our wired state is to panic, to be anxious, to be insecure. Uh, and that is where pretty much I see, uh, how it then plays out in various. And we have, and these are so many open windows inside of us. We haven't gone and closed, or even if we have attempted, we've closed a few windows. We've not closed those deep traumas that are still burning inside. There is restlessness around that, or the deep desires that we were never able to fulfill, and we've been nursing it on and on. So I think it's a mixture. It's a messy. There's one word that I like to use. People say, "Are you optimistic or pessimistic?" I say, "I'm messimistic." There's messiness in human living and our interactions, and we don't know how to deal with the mess. So our default mode is to panic, and uh, a certain kind of activities also. So, for example, if somebody asks me to just go on a stage and address a lakh people, that's not silence. That's so much of noise, but you're not able to process that. So I think we have this funny nuance to it.
Mm. Are you, so there was this underlying thought to everything that you said in this answer was, are you equating silence with death, or are we in a way afraid of it because it is, whatever it is communicating, we are unable to accept it at that point of time, and there is no sense of abiding in it, just be with it. Uh, are you loosely saying that?
Yeah, in fact, I would say that silence is a subset of death uh, in a way, and then there are certain framing where death is a subset of silence. So depending on how we want to hold one and see the other. Uh, when I mention death as a major set and silence as a subset, then I'm looking at. So suppose you disagree with me on this response that I
Mm.
shared with you, and I don't have my own vivek and my own way of processing it. Suddenly there's the death. My thoughts have met with death because they're not living through you, right? If you'd have accepted and agreed, then the thoughts are living inside of me and you, and then I see myself thriving in you, and we both are thriving. But I see that as a death then, if there is a rejection coming. So in that sense, yeah, those kind of silences could be there. Um, and the other way of framing is if we are into wisdom practices, then there are experiences, first person experiences where we have uh, the experience of pure witness consciousness, which is absolutely silent but beaming. It's a beaming silence. It's not a black hole retrograde silence.
Okay. Um, this also set me to, although you framed it in a very unique, specific manner, is this the sense of me wanting to impose myself on the moment, uh, do something with it, whether play a game on my computer, uh, fiddle on my phone, or talk to somebody. I have these discussions with a lot of people. Someone close to me always keeps saying, uh, बात करने से बहुत कुछ सीखने मिलता है, and very often I feel कि equally one can learn from one's own self. So one little example that comes to mind because it happened yesterday. So my temper was rising at something, but before I could respond angrily, I could see myself that I was about to respond angrily. I still did. There was no sense of control, but there was this sense of that it is happening to somebody. That was me, and I was completely involved in it. But there was still that distance that silence gave me in that few microseconds or seconds before I landed up saying this. And it was only in retrospect I went back and saw, I said, there was this space. I should have just calmed down in that space and looked at it or observed it with some kind of equanimity if I could. Maybe that is the work I need to do from now on, is a brief I gave myself in terms of Look, just don't get overwhelmed with what is happening at that time. See if you can pause a little more and have a better look at what is happening, because you could see the entire process happening. uh, how does silence impact relationships? uh, what is, because we are social beings, we like to talk, we have all this social media, those kind of things, sheerly successful because of our ability to communicate. And we find that it is a very strong way of reaching out and sometimes talking to 1,000 people through my Facebook wall or Insta account or any such. Uh, Alternatively, uh, within smaller circles, we are uh, communicating more often than not through our devices. Sometimes our meetings seem to last. There was this funny Jaspal Bhatti episode where he says the only thing that gets decided in meetings is the date of the next meeting. So I find that now that I see it in this context, that there are chances that we are so overwhelmed with talking and thinking this is a way to go, that we think relationships will drop off. You yourself gave an example that uh, that have you said something and I am not receiving it in the proper uh, way that you think I should, and there is a death of something. While that is right, the acceptance still lies with you. Like it's okay. As we go forward, maybe he will see the wisdom in my words, or I will see the wisdom in his words. Let me just pause. Uh, how do you see communication and this continuous use of words in reaching out to each other and the world at large?
Yeah. I was listening to a wonderful writer, Gagan Gill. She was awarded Sahitya Akademi Award.
Can you speak up a bit? I can.
Yeah, I was listening to an interview of Gagan Gill. She's wife, Nirmal Kumar, another great writer. And Gagan Gill had received her Sahitya Akademi Award recently.
Okay.
And she's receded from writing, and so she started her career as a journalist in Times of India, and then she went on to write a lot of work. She's written a very very poignantly about the Sikh riots uh, also, and last 10 years or so she's been more into Buddhist practices. She had this interesting thing uh, where she's receded from production of this writing, this creativity, this putting things out, and she wants to be conscious of what she's putting out. Uh, uh, I feel that I feel there is adaptive silence and there is maladaptive silence. Similarly, there is adaptive non-silence and maladaptive non-silence. I think we need to do our deep work to understand the adaptive and the non-adaptive nature of both, and then have a better communication between us. One last bit, I was fortunate to, she's no more, Judith Glaser. She wrote a book called Conversational Intelligence. Uh, she says that we humans can actually see our conversations at three levels: level one, level two, level three. Level one is sell, tell, yell. So we are selling, telling, yelling each other. More transactional, more. Level two is positional. I am right, you are wrong. She says in the world we see more and more of just these two. And level three is what she says is co-sensing, where you and I come into a space, we hold the space, we exchange, and we discover something which individually we would not have discovered. Now, my sense is that and this is what I had proposed to her, but unfortunately she passed away, as we were writing a paper together around it. That the same thing it happens inside of us. if we check ourselves, what are we telling ourselves? Our internal chat could also be level 1 and 2. It's not level 3. Like a level 3 internally would be to surprise your own self uh, with something that you would not have got because you were in the usual, you know, spree. So I'll put that out.
Thank you for this last example. There was one interesting happening that I remember from a couple of weeks back. So, a couple of us get together and once a week and meditate together. Uh, so that is very early morning. I have to leave because we are meditating at a friend's office, and uh, so it was, I think, somewhere around 6:10, and the birds were flying towards the sun. As I was on a flyover kind of thing, reaching my friend's office. And when I saw that, I said, someday I need to spend time and figure out whether uh, is that a way of I should follow and lead my life towards the sun during my work day. And when I'm winding up, I come back towards the west, emulating them and figuring out if it makes a difference to my inner self. Uh, I haven't done anything consciously on that yet, and now that I'm talking to you, I'm thinking I need to figure out what to do first in terms of going towards the sun and going away from the sun. It's not even away from the sun. At that point, the thought that hit me was they are following the sun. So if it is setting, they go in that direction, and then they wind off. Uh, Also, in terms of as a beautiful example, in my earlier days when I used to go to Dhammagiri, the place where they teach Vipassana meditation in Igatpuri, and I used to do my courses. So there is this evening sitting from 6 to 7. So around 6:20, 25 onwards, the birds would create a cacophony that was unbelievable, and you knew they were coming home. And there was almost a precise time, 6:40, 41 or something like that. By then, there would be just one or two birds just, and that too, kind of just winding up kind of thing, uh, cackling, and they would just go silent. And the last 10, 15, 20 minutes of the session was absolute silence. There was nothing, you couldn't hear a single, you could hear a pin drop, as they say. And it was a very fascinating thing to see that they may not have watches, or they wouldn't have known time in the same way that humans see it. But there is this fascinating aspect of how well they study nature and they know what is the time. And down to the minute, it was unbelievable. Uh, is there a merit in seeking silence as a method of study, according to you? And if it is there anything that you do where you uh, pursue it? Uh, is there anything you want to share on that?
Yeah, I I feel there is a 2 by 2 that happens to me, which is, so imagine there is stilling and tilling. Stilling is, bringing to rest, and tilling is, like we till the soil. And um, so I think there is the element of stilling the body, tilling the body, stilling the mind, tilling the mind. I think what has happened in our current avatars, most of the people who are in this kind of work, uh, where we use a lot of communication, a lot of opinions, and a lot of judgments in our work through various communication platforms, is that we've brought the body to stilling, but our minds are running riot. And maybe I think we need to be observant of what can be done. So I would urge that there should be a balance, and if the body is being put still throughout the day more, then we need to increase the movement of the body throughout the day, and also have stilling practices of the body where uh, a lot of people who do meditation know that there are twitches, there are itches, the body wants to just move a little bit and it's just crying for, why don't you just move for a bit and stuff. I think to become observant of all of that. So like we can become observant of the minutest of the aspect of our body when we are still. That same can be carried when we are actually moving the body. You become very bodily aware when you're moving the body, and that gives you a very different texture of what you are bringing to where you are, with whom you are, and what you do. So this is one way to do this, and then obviously mind is constantly running riot, whether you want it or not, because it is conditioned over a period of time. Then you have to bring it into some kind of a focus or some kind of a noticing or some kind of stillness. Uh, so I think a bunch of practices people can experiment over a period of time, and they can do this. Personally, I do meditation, I do yoga, I walk every day, and when I'm doing that, I'm trying to integrate some of those practices, whether I'm stilling or tilling the mind and the body. Uh, that's how I would.
Uh, in my in my recent uh, meditative retreat that I had gone for, there was a monk among the other students who used to walk in a very particular manner, and he had fixed the space where he would walk, and he would just walk within that space most time. He would go up to a certain point, turn, come back to this point, and again turn. So while there was a huge round for walking available to us, most of us were walking that. This guy would mostly uh, walk only that space, and I was very inspired, and uh, I decided one of these days to walk more mindfully. Although I continued doing what I was doing in terms of I found on one of these days that the Buddha has mentioned being mindful in all the four postures, which is sitting, standing, lying down, or walking. And for the first time in my life, I have been knowing this for more than 25 years, that these are things that the Buddha has said in various ways, various sermons, various reminders. One has heard of it, but this was the first time that I felt it was possible to do it. So obviously it must have been possible because it's been like 2500 years since the recent Buddha, and so many people have done it, and so many people, so many monks are. I am privy to a few of them. When they talk, when they walk, you can see that there is a sense of quote unquote thera. So there is this beautiful way of incorporating silence in our lives and realizing truths that you may know intellectually, but you arrive at them sometimes, in my case, many years later. So my question to you comes from another phrase that is used by uh, was used by Ajahn Chah very often, and his disciples continue to bring that up. It's called patient endurance. My question comes from the fact that silence. So today, if I listen to you or whatever little bit I have shared here, or some monk or some practitioner of some kind, or I pick up a practice of some kind, the initial uh, experiences of the mind are uh, very hectic. Time compresses, and you feel like, oh, I've been sitting for hours, or I've been watching my mind or my body, and it's hardly been 1 or 2 minutes, and you're like already very agitated and wanting to do something. How does one develop this sense of quote unquote being uh, in a space that doesn't make us happy or at peace? Uh, One of the ideas that I had today was calling this Making Peace Come to You as an episode title. I'm unsure whether I'll use it, but so how does one work with it when initially the whole system kind of rejects it and you are, is there any uh, hack that you want to share? Is there anything at all that you want to talk about it?
Um, so imagine a 2 by 2 where on the x-axis you have effortful and effortless, and y-axis it's helping, it's harming. So we can have sometimes effortfulness helps, sometimes it harms. Sometimes effortlessness helps, sometimes it harms. Um, so that's first invocation. I think different people have very different initial experiences of some of these practices and concepts. Uh, sometimes one may feel so. Imagine you decide to go and imagine suddenly you decide you want to play tennis, and you show up on a tennis court tomorrow, and you somebody's just talking about Roger Federer and how he maintains calm and how he plays, how his volleys are, and uh, obviously Roger Federer has done so much of practice, and he's iterated, he's failed, he's integrated that, processed that, and only that at some point has made him what he has become. I think similarly, these practices are to be seen as a marathon rather than sprint, and we have to be at it over a period of time. And along the journey, you'll find all kinds of because we'll try and reference it to somebody and somebody's experience and somebody's explanation. And sometimes we feel that because they've explained it so, or because they are behaving so, why am I not able to do that? So I think that's a wrong way of referencing. It's good to be inspired rather than uh, having these kind of wrong comparisons. That's one. Number two, um, sometimes it is also possible that so I am also aware that a lot of people, they keep what I may call spiritual shopping. They shop for one guru, then they go to another guru, then they go for another guru, go for one practice, then go for another practice. There's nothing wrong with it. If it's working for you, great. If it's not working, then it's good to just take a step back. That for some of these things uh, to become natural for you, they will be difficult for a long period of time. I remember Professor Kiran Seth, who was a Padma Shri in 2009 Padma Shri and founder of Speak McKay. They organize a lot of cultural programs across colleges in India. Every year they organize about 5,000 programs. And one of his interviews, he was mentioning that he passed out from IIT Kharagpur, went to US and did his PhD. But while he was doing that, he also started taking lessons in classical Sangeet. And his guru made him sit in the corner in the room, and he kept, and for a few months, the only thing he would do for 2 hours is sa. And the point was, and he said, तुम रे तक रे पर तब तक नहीं जा सकते जब तक तुम्हारा स सही नहीं हो जाए. Right? I think that kind of sadhana is required. I think we are too impatient for that sadhana. I think we'll have to check ourselves. This requires a very different kind of tapasya and sadhana to reach a certain place. Anything else is, I would say, mech mindfulness, like McDonald's.
Interesting. Uh, I want to share a funny episode on that before I ask the next question. So I had gone to learn singing. I think I was in my college, I think, and I had a harmonium. I don't know where it came from now. I can't remember. And the guru was a classical teacher kind of thing, and he kept teaching me this sa re ga ma, and kept so it kept on going. After a couple of days, I said, Guruji, you got to teach me a song. My friends are asking, you don't know anything. What are you learning? So then, after my nagging him for a couple of days, again and again, so he taught me Janagana Mana. When I played that, my friends landed up saying, ये क्या जनगण मन क्या बजा रहा है तो गाना बजा के दिखा सर वो गाना बजा के दिखा तो I went when he taught me I think चंदन का बदन का first few strains when I went to play that then they said अरे ये क्या old fashioned time का गाना कुछ new song so by then I got so frustrated I quit my attempts at learning and Guruji kept saying कि look you're not getting the hang of it. It's not about you will play all songs on your own. You just need to be with it and learn the sargam like the back of your hand. Mane, you should really know how to. But I lost interest. I was far too young and very keen to make an impact. Uh, so it was now in retrospect it seems funny, but I realize it is again and my impatience with the silence of what time required, I should have stuck to it, and so which is also one of the connected things to the question that was running in my head. There is also the loneliness aspect of silence, uh, which is today we have anxiety issues, depression, being the words are being bandied about with such casual uh, there is just no depth in understanding and I was told by somebody some time back that uh, either a psychologist or a psychiatrist was saying our whole business is hogwash. I do not remember the rest of it, but while I think again it's too sweeping a statement to make, and obviously there would be people who must be going through. The mind also has its own fabric, and like our shoulder will have a tear or our knee will have a problem, mind could have a problem, and one needs to be easygoing about it and a little flexible in seeking help when required, perhaps. But it is not as common as people make it out to be, because it's also again the lack of endurance, the lack of patience, the lack of applying ourselves. You gave a fantastic example that if I were to compare myself to Federer or Djokovic or Nadal or somebody like that, obviously I am not going to be up to it. I have just started. I need to be kind to myself. I can be inspired. I can be inspired by their discipline, the amount of effort they put in when they were doing the hard yards. Uh, but I'm finding that all of it in toto also is a sense of loneliness. I want to belong. This whole thing of being recognized, and this is gives me a false sense of oh I belong and people love me and respect me for something I haven't even earned yet. If I were to be close, and I don't like the feeling of oh I have to earn it. I want it for free. I really want it now. What do you have to talk about the aspect of loneliness and its impact on us and our not being able to bear silence at all, like as if it's an enemy. Uh, where is the lack according to you?
Mm. There are a bunch of things there, Bhakti. There is adaptive loneliness and maladaptive loneliness. And there is adaptive gathering and maladaptive gathering.
Okay.
I think we have relationships with all four. It's just that we don't have the time and the practice and the tapasya to understand which are we occupying and how is it working out for us. And hence, we keep experimenting with either going all out and engaging but that drains sometimes. There's too much of criticism. We don't know how to handle intangibilities and intersubjectivities and polarizations and criticisms. And we end up having level 2, level 1 interactions, not level 3. And same goes in when we go inwards, uh, that has adaptiveness to it. It gives you introspection, it gives you reflection. But over a period of time, you'll need to have that ability to handle it, because it may, I was reading a book uh, titled every time I find the meaning of life, they change it. It's an interesting book. I would strongly recommend reading that book. And in that book, I remember a quote. This writer is meeting his friend, and his friend is also doing a lot of, he's studying a lot of philosophies and what different philosophers have said about life. And he said very interestingly, he said, uh, if you keep unpeeling this whole business of introspection, he's actually overthrowing that entire business. He's saying this introspection is not going to lead you anything, because we are superficial to the core. So you peel off, you feel you've just peeled off the superficial, but you got to the next level, but it's still superficial. It's still superficial, still superficial. Now, once you reach there, there could be again two belief system. One belief system says, yes, wait, there is something there. Don't go back. And there's another which would say, oh, it's all futile, all this while I was all doing superficial, right? Anyways, so coming back, I think, uh, as he said, adaptive loneliness and maladaptive loneliness has to be seen, and adaptive gathering, maladaptive gathering has to be seen. There is a writer, a researcher, social psychologist called Jonathan Haidt. He's written a book called The Anxious Generation.
Yeah.
And he cites that there is something that we are all losing skill of, and largely the skill is lost in teenagers and the Gen Z or whatever, and it has a lot to do with the ability to negotiate our own differences. So remember, I don't know about you, but when I used to play, when I used to be small, there wasn't the kind of, we would go down, we would play, and parents would know we are playing, but there was not a oversight, gated community having CCTV surveillance, and then we would have fights and we would have argument, and we would negotiate, or we would get beaten up, whatever. So there was a certain kind of social friction that we were exposed to, and we started negotiating it differently. But I think that has been lost on a lot of kids after us. And then it becomes difficult because you're not able to take criticism, your self-esteem gets hurt very easily. Now, that's the coinage Jonathan gives. I partly agree, I partly disagree, because even when I see adults of my age or elder to me, at the slightest of the thing, they get so offended. So I think that skill was not built upon. They had that latent thing, something had to be done after that, maybe they didn't do. And finally, I think there is something why the preamble of our constitution has 4 key pillars: justice, equality, liberty, fraternity. If you very closely see, there is conflict and tussle. Some of them are complementary and some of them are not. How can you talk about liberty when you're talking fraternity? Because liberty might take you to self-expression, individual reasoning, rationality, but also loneliness. And then fraternity can take you to losing your own self for the entire community, or you lose your identity, you don't have expression. I feel that therein lies the messimistic aspect of life. It's messy. We want it to be very clear, controlling, graspable, mentionable, quotable, and I think it's nice, messy. We can have it as a playground. We should have good players around who have that sportsman spirit to play in this messiness. Unfortunately, that's not the case, and that's why we get into all kinds of gatherings and activities of silence and loneliness.
Well, it is interesting. Maybe I found a title which is better than mine. Uh, I want to end with a joke because of something that you said when going to the core. There is this guy who is very keen to find out the meaning of life. He keeps asking, keeping on visiting people here and there, and all of the guys keep on giving him answers which don't satisfy him. So finally, he learns about this great sage in the Himalayas that talks once every 5 years, and you have to go and win his heart. And if he's going to do that, so he says, "No, nothing doing. I'll figure out a way to get my answer." He goes there, he serves him for 5 years, and finally gets his chance. So the sage is happy. He says, "Okay, ask what do you want?" He says, "I want to know the meaning of life." So he says, "The meaning of life is ice. Life is like an ice cream." So this guy is waiting, and there is no explanation. So he says, "What? Life is like an ice cream? Is that all you got?" So the sage turns around and says, "What? Life is not like an ice cream." And that's the, uh, I think in Hindi the word is vidambana. Okay, how do we resolve this? Many aspects of silence which are uncomfortable, unhappy, uh, seek patience from us and demand a lot of effort at times, and effortlessness, like you said, which could also be called grace, God for some. Uh, Thank you so much for being graceful about being available and talking on a topic that I was very unsure where it would go. But like always, there is so much to learn when co-sensing with you. Uh, Thank you so much for the many words of wisdom, and I shall see you soon. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Banki. Thank you so much.
Bye.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah.